Well, game week 38. Another season is coming to an end. Incredible. Absolutely mind-blowing. This season went by like this. I say it every year, but this season flew by. It really did. And we've got a match point in our hand for this goddamn Champions League qualification. All we need to do is win. We don't need to depend on other teams, as you know, following that Juventus suicide last weekend, backed it up by that derby win. So we need to win in a game that, look, on paper it's an easy game. We can't hide this. They are already relegated. But there are a few things that just alarm me. And probably the biggest thing that alarms me is ourselves. It's the fact that this is us, and that it's not the first time that we've depended on such a game, and we've bottled it. There are a lot of examples that you take from our history, so there's always this element in football where you never know what happens, and it's great. It's why we love this game. But it's games like this with so much pressure that at the end of the day can go in either way, in either direction. And I guess that's the good thing about football, but it's also the thing that I'm not saying should traumatize us, because I believe that confidence is key in this game. But it's something that will keep us feet on the ground, knowing that we're not entering this game as already winners and that we have to win the game on the pitch. And I think this is the most important thing to start this last match preview of the season. By the way, if I'm like spitting around, I put the Invisalign, so like 2 hours ago at the dentist. So if I'm spitting around, it's because of that. Look, it's the last match preview, guys. I want everybody here watching this video to hit that like button for two reasons. Number one, for ourselves, because it's a big moment, because we're one step away from that Champions League qualification that we are missing and have been missing for so much time. And number two, because it's the last match preview of the season. A lot of hard work goes behind these videos. A lot of study, watching football, analyzing numbers, graphic creating. All that you see comes from me. And that's probably the beauty of this channel. So yeah, I can't believe that another season is almost over. So if you can hit that like, it would be great. If you can also subscribe, it would be even better. Okay, look. Let's start with the hazards of this game, because I picture this game as a bottle of citric acid. No, not citric acid. Chemists won't like this. What's that acid that if you kind of spill on yourself, it irritates your skin? Does chloride acid even exist? Types of acids. Oh, hydrogen. I don't care. Look, but how I picture this game is a big bottle of acid with a big label in front of it going, be careful. Be careful. Be careful. Be very careful, because you can produce a lot of damage with that bottle of acid to yourself. However, if you're careful with it, you're going to get the job done very carefully and very successfully. But you have to be careful. And that's exactly how I picture this game. There's a big label on the television before the game starts going, alert, beware. Beware, because the risk of fucking it up all over again, having gotten to this stage of the season, is there. But at the same time, if you know that there's a danger, you're going to try and avoid that danger. And I believe that we're going to avoid it. But I don't want to jinx this, which is why I'm not going to give score predictions for you guys. Now, look, Verona are already relegated. Verona are already relegated, but I guess the paradox is exactly this. The second they were automatically relegated, they started playing well. And that's kind of the paradox of Verona. I think there are teams in this league this season that kind of are weaker than Verona. I don't think Verona's a good team technically. You can't say that they're a good team technically. But they have got individuals that I look at, for instance, a Pisa, never had. I look at a Lecce, don't see them, okay? They are a team that defends really well. And they are a team that if you take their big games this season against top teams, they either lost, but if they lost with honor. Last weekend, Inter already champions, it was a party, 1-1 at San Siro. The weekend before that, at home against Como, Como only won 1-0. The week before that, Inter against Juventus, 1-1. All of these games, they're already relegated. Against Milan at home, only lost 1-0. They are an organised side, which is why this game, to some extent, resembles the Parma game to me. A team that is already relegated, unlike Parma, but plays similar football. Organised, low block. Okay? So the paradox with Verona is that they've been bad because they have. Because if you get 19th with 21 points with only 3 wins, you can't define yourself as a good football team. 3 wins, 22 defeats. You know, for instance, Pisa, 2 wins, 23 defeats. So the difference isn't that big. They drew the same exact amount of games. So technically, numbers prove it. Facts prove it. The table proves it. In the last game week of the season, the technical level is not good. They're 13 points behind Cremonese. 13 points behind Cremonese is a lot. But the paradox with Verona is that they started playing better when they got automatically relegated. How does that work? You're asking yourself. Well, this is the proof that in football, playing with nothing in your mind normally makes you play better. So the danger of this game is exactly this. A team that is preparing for the Serie B next season is finishing the season at home, so in front of their fans. So they will want to end the season with honor. And number 2, whenever you don't have pressure, when you've got nothing to play for, when you've got nothing in your mind and you're just there to play football, you play better. So the paradox with Verona is this, which is why I say beware. Having said this, if you do your job and you're careful, you're going to win because you're better than them and quality will prevail. Quality and motivation will prevail. Okay, so the conditions for winning, it's full of them. But as always, there's always that little element of auto-suicide that you have to consider when speaking about Roma, because we've seen it so many times over the course of our history. Look, I don't really need to open a parenthesis on us. The good thing is that we depend on ourselves, so we don't need to sit there watching the game and then updating scores from the other games as well. Juve can win, Milan can win, Como can win. If you win, who gives a shit? Okay, so the ball is in your hands, something which last weekend it wasn't, which is good, because I never like depending on other teams. Never like depending on other teams. So this is something to consider. Ball is in our hands. The reason I trust this so much, and I kind of trust us, is because of the manager. I think this season, very rare, again, there's always implanted in our DNA that element of auto-suicide. This is what Roma's best known for. But I do think that with Gasperini, we've reduced the occasions where this auto-suicide occurred this season. The biggest one for me is that Juve won. But other than that, you either lost because you deserved to lose, or you didn't lose. So many times apart, not many times apart from a few this season, has this manager allowed that auto suicide, that auto suicide kind of characteristic. But again, I trust the manager. Oh, by the way, Sebbis, thank you very much for the super chat. Più paura di noi che del Verona dagli Roma. Hai detto bene, hai detto bene. To translate what he said, you know, he's got more fear of ourselves than our opponents, which is absolutely true. You know, if we lose this game, we lose it because we stab ourselves. We don't lose it because Verona put their balls on our head. No. We lose this because we just lose it. And that's what doesn't need to happen. What doesn't need to happen is losing the control of yourself. Because you will produce the game. You will have the game plan in your hand. You will dominate the game. But again, you know, you have to reduce you have to reduce the giving them free chances, especially because you don't have Ndika in defense, and without Ndika in defense, we are wobblier at the back. But what I was saying is, you know, this manager is the only person inside AS Roma and outside AS Roma, you know, including us fans, that has always believed in this top four, and that is probably one of the biggest credits that we'll give to him. He is the only one who has from day one believed in that top four, and even after that 5-2 defeat, whatever it was, against Inter a few months ago, he still believed in it when all of us were dead. All of us were dead, because after that defeat, the last thing that crossed your mind was to get in that top four. And I think it's this obsession that he's had in this actual belief that this team can get top four that will not allow for distractions. But again, he's not the one that plays. He only transmits this energy. Giacomo Fredero, vicino a te a Nizza, ho visto il video poco tempo fa, grande, gran trasferta. Poi i mortacci loro ce l'hanno bannate, però gran trasferta. I'm gonna read other comments at the end. I'm gonna read them all, so don't worry, pop your comments in the chat. What else? Look, what getting top four brings to this football club is something that, frankly speaking, I don't want to focus on now. After the Verona game ends, before the real holiday begins, I think we've got some very important few days. So on Sunday evening, we will understand what our European fate will be. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday following Sunday's result, I think will be very important dates. Because I think in those, let's just paraphrase the following week. The following week, next week, we will be active. We will be active because we will know a lot on renewals, so contract extensions. We will know a lot about on our next sporting director, and we will have a realistic picture of the positive implications that qualifying in the Champions League means to us. So what I would advise people is don't zone out immediately after the Verona game. I will not zone out immediately after the Verona game because I think we will have an important week with a lot of videos on the channel post, hopefully, fingers crossed, Champions League qualification, where we will understand things. In that week, I will also talk about the future of this channel. And I'm going to leave it there with a bit of suspense. Am I retiring? Am I hopping on the Pep train, retiring after 7 years on YouTube? I don't know. Who knows? I will keep the suspense going, but I will speak about what will happen with the channel. So yeah, don't zone out immediately after the Verona game. Don't go on holiday immediately after the Verona game, because I think next week will be important. Because I think next week a lot of things will happen, regardless of whether we get Champions League or not. It will be a busy week. So we will be active, and then there's gonna be that period where nothing will happen, and that's where you can go on holiday. But yeah, okay. A few more things. Predicted 11 is that. A few players are missing. Wesley is suspended. Ndika is injured. Kone is back, but in doubt. Pellegrini is not available. And Tsimikas is not available. I read it like 10 minutes ago. I believe he has a fever. Not that we care. That, in my opinion, will be the predicted 11. Mancini in the middle with Gilardi and Hermoso on the sides. Chilik and Wrench. Now again, not having Wesley is not a good thing, because Wesley pushes. And against these teams that play with a low block, Wesley is always a must. So Wrench and Chilik on the two sides. Cristante and Kone in the middle. I've put Kone, but I'm not sure Kone will play for various reasons. A lot of reasons. Number one, because he's coming from an injury, and you know he is part of that France World Cup squad. So if Kone isn't 100% fit, I can understand the player hesitating a bit, because he wants to be part of that World Cup. And if he's coming from an injury, I don't know. Of course, he's under contract with us, so he needs to play. This is a massive game. I mean, people would argue this is the most important game of the season. But again, will he play good? Will he play with that fear of getting injured again and then missing the World Cup? I'm not sure if starting Kone is actually a good option. That's my point. And number three, yes, it is true that if we do get Champions League football, we need to, reduce the amount of big players that we need to sacrifice. But Champions League or no Champions League, we still need to make a profit capital gain by the 30th of June. Unless I've been told that due to the fact that the Fredkins have got good relations with UEFA, they can ask for that FFP to be postponed by another year, so that then you can meet it with the profits that you make from the Champions League, if you do qualify for it, that will end up on the balance sheet next June. So if we do get Champions League football, I've been told, my dad has a very good friend who is one of the, not lawyers, but one of the, but he works with Roma. And yeah, he told my dad that basically there's this chance that if we do get Champions League football, we can postpone that settlement agreement by another year. And then we can use our Champions League money that will, of course, end up on the balance sheet next year to kind of water it away. Otherwise, you still need to make that capital gain by the 30th of June. And I strongly believe that if you do need to sacrifice somebody, it's going to be Kone. So that's the other element to consider. I believe that if you need to sell a big one, I think it's going to be Kone. And as I've already said, I think out of the big ones, so out of Zvelor, Ndika, Kone, and Malin, let's call them, I'd sell Kone. Because I think Kone is injury prone, and because I think Kone is inconsistent. He's a great player, but out of the four, I would pick him to be the sacrificable one. So yeah, look, a lot is on the fence for this game. This game is not just 90 minutes. This game defines our future. And I'm not over-exaggerating when I say this. I truly believe that to set the base for the team that can challenge for the Scudetto in the near future, hopefully, you need the Champions League. You will not construct a team that will be able to challenge for the league title if you don't get Champions League football and Champions League money before. Napoli proves this. Napoli, with that Kvara, Osimhen, Spalletti Scudetto in 2023, proved this. A team that was built with Champions League money. You cannot build a team, especially if you're under FFP sanctions, for yet another summer, which hopefully will be the last summer if you don't do that postponement thing. But, you know, Gasperini said it after the derby. I am here to win. I gave myself 3 years to try and win the Scudetto. If in his first year he gets Champions League football, I think he's overachieved. So it would be a massive base for the remaining 2 years on his contract. And I think it's very, very important for your future. The Champions League, unfortunately, like it or not, in a football that is dominated by money, is the salvation. So it's the salvation. And I mean, I read a Twitter post today that said that the last time we played a Champions League game, Tsiolkovsky was 14 years old. Dybala was valued 120 million on transfer market. De Rossi was a football player and played for us. And then something like that. It's crazy. And like it or not, the main reason as to why we've, in the past 7 years, always reached the same position in the league is because we didn't have that Champions League money. And with Champions League money, I'm going to say one thing to end this. A lot of teams are living a turmoil this summer. The only 2 teams that won't live a turmoil up to now, guaranteed, are Inter and Roma, who have firmly stood with their managers. Rightly so. Milan, high tensions between Zlatan, between Allegri, will Allegri stay, Champions League, no Champions League. Spalletti, incredibly high tensions with Comolli. Will he resign? Will he not resign? Will he resign without the Champions League? With the Champions League, what happens there? Palladino is leaving Atalanta, so they're restarting from scratch again. Lazio, vabbè, Sarri is leaving, but who cares about Lazio? They won't be able to compete anyways. Napoli, Conte is leaving, so they will have to start from scratch again, even though the team is a good team, but the manager shifts. Next season, you have got the chance to be Inter's competitor. With a good transfer session, with Champions League money, with the complete backing of Gasperini's requests, I strongly believe the next season you will start in a very advantageous position next to Inter for that for that Scudetto charge. I strongly believe this because a lot of teams are changing. An earthquake is hitting a lot of teams apart from you and Inter, who have firmly stood with their managers. So you have got all the ingredients and all the tools to start in an advantageous position next year. And if you back this with that Champions League money, number one, you can start creating that gap with, for instance, a Juve if Spalletti was to resign and if they were to not qualify for the Champions League. Champions League money changes too much. I don't want to look at it now. As I said, we will look at it next week. Next week will be a crucial week. A lot of things will happen. I think Dybala's extension will happen. DS will happen. And we will have clarity on what our future will be. But this game is massive. Some people would argue this is one of the most important games of recent times. And I agree. I wouldn't define this the most important game of Roma's recent history because it's not. I mean, there are elements of it that it is, but I saw people asking for the big screen due to the fact that the away game is banned to put the big screen on. No, that's extremely weak mentality. You do not want to put a big screen to attract all the fans and watch the game together for a game against Verona for a top 4 qualification. Like that shows you that we've missed it for so many years. But if you do it, it's extremely weak mentality. It's very important, but you cannot celebrate the top 4 position as if you've won the Champions League. please do not allow this football club to become that. So yeah, this is what I think about the game. Okay, I'm going to read a few comments. Can't believe we did well after Ranieri left. I thought we'll crumble as usual. Well done. Gasp, says Brolic. Malin masterclass. I reckon Malin will score. That's the only sort of prediction I'll give. Look, we can lose and he can score. So I'm not saying we're going to win, but I believe he's going to score. Do you think Malin is your player of the season? Player of the season for me is either Malin or either Wesley. I'm trying to think if I'm missing somebody. Zvelor, yes, but I wouldn't put him as the player of the season for us. I think it's between Malin and Wesley. Soulé, yes, but Soulé up until November, because after November he didn't do anything, so Soulé can't be in that conversation. We're all shitting in our pants. We all know it's true. Verona are very good at scraping points and we're bad when it comes to relying on ourselves. Please let the story change for once. Mancini is 1 yellow card away from suspension, so I guess you'll get it versus Verona so you could enjoy a prolonged holiday. By the way, 5th of June, new calendar is getting unveiled. 5th of June. So in a few weeks, actually, the new calendar will be unveiled. I can't fucking wait for Mancini against Yamal. Is Kone leaving? I think there's a good probability that Kone leaves, yes. Big match, but easy win after all. 2-0 and the champions. That light reflecting off of Malin's sides is hilarious. I can't unsee it. I don't know what that means. Simo, I'll travel back to Rome next year in June for the Roman centenary. Hopefully I'll get to finally meet you, man, says Brolic. Or you're going to be at the game. I can't. I would have. This would have been a great experience, but I've been stripped of my right to follow my team away because of a few idiots that start fights in the middle of streets. I've been, the reason why I've been to very little away games this season is because ever since from January to the end of the season, they banned all away games. So, it's so unfair. I'm not going to speak about signings now because my perspective and my perception of signings will change on whether we get Champions League or not. And everyone's perception will, because if you get Champions League football, you can expect and you can start demanding for higher quality signing. That doesn't mean Yamal, that doesn't mean Haaland, that doesn't mean Shirky, but higher quality. So yeah. They banned all no away fans from Rome. There are gonna be away fans, but fans from living in Rome can't go. And they couldn't have gone to games ever since January. Because they had a fight with Fiorentina Ultras at the beginning of the season. And so what the Italian authorities decided to do was to ban all away games for both Roma fans and Fiorentina fans, which is ridiculous, but this is Italy, so what do you expect? Anyways, look, I will catch you on Sunday evening, worst case scenario on Monday, for the match reaction. It depends on what time I come back from the beach, from the sea, so hopefully Sunday evening though. Forza Roma sempre. This is absolutely massive. Match point in our hands. We cannot bottle this. And I believe in us. Forza Roma sempre. Speak to you soon. Simo out.